Atulji, tell me, if you were asked to choose one international book and to convert into a Hindi film screenplay today, which one would you choose? Why?
Partha ji, there was a book which I read in my adolescence, and that too because our house was full of Soviet books those days, or Russian books which came to us during the Soviet era, and some of them have stayed in my head and heart for that long. There was a Tolstoy novel called Resurrection, which I read in Hindi translation called Punarutthan, and that was about the days of the feudal system in Russia and the serf and serfdom, etc. And the story of a kind of a zamindar's son who goes to his state from Moscow, and in the state he meets a Kisan girl and falls in love with her, impregnates her, leaves it. So it's very much kind of a Shakuntala Dushyant kind of a thing. And by the time she is pregnant and she comes to him, he refuses to recognize, or the circumstances are such that he cannot even meet her, and then she has to go back, and how her life is destroyed till at a later age there is a kind of a resurrection in his whole charitra, in his whole character, and he comes back and they are kind of united, but it's too late, etc., etc. That's something which has stayed with me, and if given a chance, I would like to make that into a film. But before we go ahead, I'd like to kind of share something very interesting with you. Our audience has called most of the films correctly on which books they were based from. But if we ask them another question, that did they prefer the book or did they prefer the film? Most of them would say, perhaps, that they preferred the book and not the film. Actually, there is a great joke that once two goats were grazing in a ground, and while grazing grass, they suddenly came up something very hard, and they started digging it with their horns, and they dug out, and it was a film can. Those were the days when the films came in the can. So they were very curious, and they opened the can, and as soon as they opened the film can, the film unspooled itself, as it used to do. So the goats thought it's something eatable, and they started eating the film from the two sides. And after they finished and their noses met, one of them said that, how was it? The other one says, well, the book was better. So, the book is always better. It's never the film which is better. Because when we are reading a book, we are making our own film in our heads. So there is always a great challenge in front of screenplay writers, that how, because everybody carries their book when they are going to the theater. Those of us who have read the book, they're carrying their book in their head, and then they compare it. They compare it with whatever image they have made of the book in their head. So it's always a great challenge converting a book into a film, especially a novel, because novels are too long, and novels you have to edit, and there's a lot which people love is left out. So it's better to adapt short stories into film, where you are adding some value to it. So there's always a great challenge before film writers.
Yeah, I totally agree. So, Atulji, I am yet to find, in my personal experience, a film which I can say was better than the novel or the book on which it was based. Sudhir Mishra ji, a good friend of mine, he says, क्या कोई ऐसी फिल्म है जिस पर बाद में कोई किताब लिखी गई हो और वो मशहूर भी हुई हो? अतुल जी?
ऐसी फिल्म जिसपे किताब लिखी हुई, कभी कभी ऐसे प्रयत्न हुए हैं. अभी जैसे हाल में ही अगर एक फिल्म को हम ले लें, बाहुबली, तो बाहुबली के ऊपर बाद में किताब लिखी गई है, क्योंकि वो इतनी पॉपुलर फिल्म थी कि लोग किताब भी खरीद के पढ़ेंगे. इस तरह के प्रयास वेस्ट में भी काफी हुए हैं, जहां नॉवल से बेस्ड किताब, जहां फिल्म पे बेस्ड किताबें बाद में लिखी गई हैं. कभी कभी वो सफल भी हुए हैं, लेकिन अधिकतर वो भी सफल नहीं होते हैं. लेकिन फिर क्योंकि आप किताब पढ़ी इसलिए रहे हो क्योंकि आप फिल्म देख चुके हो और आप देखना चाहते हो तुमने क्या किया हम देखते हैं, तो इसलिए वो कहीं ना कहीं उस तरह से बहुत सफल नहीं होते हैं. लेकिन हाँ, जैसे आई एम श्योर कि बाहुबली वाली किताब जो है वो बहुत सफल होगी, इसलिए कि लोग चाहेंगे कि अभी तो एक बार फिल्म देख ली है, अब ये किताब भी लेके जाएं और उसको उपन्यास के तौर पर पढ़ें. लेट्स रीड इट एज अ नॉवल, नॉट एज अ स्क्रीन प्ले. because screenplays are also sometimes available these days. But don't read it as a screenplay, but read it as a story. Read it as a retold thing.